Hello and welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Yep, still smiling. Don't know why. Joining me today, welcome back again, Jake Sanders. Hello.
How you doing?
All right, how are you?
Not too bad.
And an Echo of Glory debut. I just asked off air who's had a debut this late in the season. We'll come to it. It's Adam Nathan. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. Listen, Adam, genuinely, after a Spurs game, sometimes during a Spurs game, if it's that bad, you're the first person I go to on social media. So get on Adam's Twitter. Is it just at Adam Nathan?
Adam D. Nathan.
Adam D. Nathan. I think one of the best Spurs social media Twittery people out there.
Lovely to hear it.
Yeah, good.
Almost no one else has said that. So, it's taken me 13 years and someone said it. So thank goodness for that.
I just love your insight. Don't always agree. That's football. You don't have to. But I think your insight is spot on. So I'm delighted to have you on. Who has been given a debut this late in the season?
Danny Rose.
Danny Rose. When would that have been?
Is it April?
I think it was that late.
I think it might have been around this time. April 2010.
Yeah, it was that famous week after, because it was the Wednesday after FA Cup semi-finals, wasn't it? After Portsmouth. So it must be.
It was literally this week.
All right, talk amongst yourselves. Well, listen.
Harry Kane? Oh, no, Prem debut maybe.
Yeah, he made his debut against Hearts, didn't he?
Yeah, no.
I've typed in Kane. I'll have a look at that in a minute. But Adam, all right, listen, we've got you on. It's a debut. I'm going to ask you a few questions, really. Sure. Your thoughts on Spurs. I'm assuming you are not Ange in. I'll take it for granted that you're Ange out. Where are you on Spurs at the moment, and when did you sort of go, do you know what, no more of this guy?
I was unbelievably sympathetic towards him last season. I think it caused us to have a bit of a ruckus on said social media, funnily enough, which is always a good one. Yeah. And then, I just sort of thought that last year, if you are going to change something, there are going to be bumps, and it was fair for there to be a few obstacles. And it wasn't brilliant at all times, but I thought I saw enough green shoots that there was something to build on for next year. Yeah. And then, of all the games, I watched that Bayern Munich friendly at home. I don't know if
you've gone pre-season.
Yeah, and I know people say you can't take anything from pre-season, but I do think you can spot traits in games like that. And we scored after 3 seconds or whatever, and then we spent 90 minutes being utterly battered. Yeah. But not just battered because a better team was beating us. There were just huge holes in midfield. It was set pieces. And I just thought this was all the stuff that I'd hoped and expected that wouldn't happen in year two. And then that Leicester game happened, obviously first game of the season. And I remember turning up to the Everton game at home, and I just felt really flat. And we scored good goals, but there was something nagging at me thinking,
it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. And then I think I spent 4 or 5 months on the mindset that Ange is going to go at some point, and it's going to be sad because it's just not worked out. He's tried it and it's just failed. But I think since that Chelsea-Liverpool doubleheader in December, where they were embarrassing games to be at, that really turned it for me, and I found it very, very difficult to reconcile anything that's going on. Like the amount of people that the club have sacked in various positions at various times. Yeah. And Levy is so often criticised for being too trigger happy. Yeah. For me, this is the second time in 3 seasons where he's not been trigger happy enough. Same with Conte just after the World Cup, when I think we all knew something wasn't really working. Yeah. But they just laboured and let the season drift and drift. And for the second time in 3 seasons, we're entering April with, albeit there's Europe, but domestically nothing. And that should not be happening at Tottenham.
So we'll come to Ange a little bit more in depth, but I will also want to ask you your Spurs Hill to Die On, an episode that we had recently. And I think this segues nicely into what you said about Levy being trigger happy.
Yeah, so my hill has always been that I was very happy that Mourinho got sacked before the final.
Really?
Because if Spurs were going to win a trophy and end this drought, the last person I wanted to have that hanging over us, in every press conference, Mourinho being the guy that said, look, well, no one can win a trophy, but I did it. Yeah. Your beloved Pochettino, what did he do? Well, I turned up. And it segues a little bit into how I feel now, in the sense that with Ange, I am desperate for Spurs to win the Europa League. But I was talking to my friends and dad last night, and I was thinking that I feel like it's going to be a win for us
as a
great fan
point.
base, as opposed to like the trophy will go in the club's cabinet, but it feels like it should go into the fans' cabinet, if that makes sense. And watching the celebration that the Liverpool players had on the pitch yesterday with the players and fans, that unity, we could feasibly have that after the Brighton game on the last game of the season, which is after the cup final, where presumably they'll lift the trophy on the pitch. But I don't think I'm going to want to celebrate with the players. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather be in the concourses and on the streets with the fans, because I think it's going to feel like our trophy to win as opposed to the club's.
I totally agree.
That is genuinely exactly how I feel.
Yeah, I've started thinking that this morning.
Because I always used to think, if we lifted a trophy under Podge, it would be unbelievable. And
Togetherness,
the connection would have been unbelievable. And I was actually thinking before I came on here, I was looking for our players and I was like, I don't have one. Feel like I have one connection because there was someone that posted yesterday 4 photos. I think it was Gascoigne. It was that one of Van der Vaart at the Emirates when he shushed them. There was one of Toby and Jan, and maybe one of Kane and Son. And he said, we used to be, have players that really care. Yeah. And I was looking and I was thinking, if we genuinely did win it, that's exactly how I feel.
I was thinking that this morning. Is this the most unlikable Spurs team for a long time? But is it unlikable because they're so bad? Listen, we all love Son, but he's gone off the boil. But why are you saying that, Ad? Like, why are we sitting here saying this is for us? This is not for the team. Ange came in to build this, the love back. I think he did for the first 10 games. We were all on this journey, and it has obviously the journey has ended, and it's all fallen away. But why are we starting to feel now unconnected to this team?
We lose every week. And you can lose. We're all sort of mid to late 30s Spurs fans. We are. If we weren't used to losing by now, then we're in the wrong game. Yeah. I haven't got a problem with losing. I've had my whole life losing. But losing in the manner that we've been losing, and with the team rotations that don't even feel like they've got a semblance of sense around them. You play Archie Gray. I'm sure we'll go into the game, but little things like, you've got Southampton at home 2 weeks ago. Play Archie Gray as a 6 in that game where he can settle in, not away at the champions elect. This all just felt so random. It's almost like he said, look, Mille, I'll deal with the Europa League. You just pick whoever you want and I'm not going to quibble. 6 starters, five reserves, pick a team you want and we'll just go with that for the rest of the season. And ultimately, as a fan, I can't just switch on and off my love for the team. Fair play if you're a fan that can just care about 7 games from February onwards, but I can't do that. I don't know about you guys, so to see the manner in which we're losing, it's embarrassing.
So one more question before we come to yesterday. Another question on social media the last few weeks has been, would you take 17th in the Europa League? My answer was, I would for one season, but we can't keep doing this. So if we win the Europa League, you look back at this season, are you going to go, do you know what? We scratched that itch.
No. Well, I mean, if you don't know whether you would until you live through it, I guess, right? It's a very easy hypothetical to say, well, I'd take it when you're 4th in the league and not winning the FA Cup. Yeah. But having lived through it, we lose every week, and I watch it with my dad and my mates, and it's miserable.
It's sad.
And I think if we do win the Europa League, that'll be one of the finest moments as a Spurs fan. But it wouldn't make it a better season than any of the ones under Pochettino, as far as I'm concerned.
That's what we said on Friday, didn't we?
Yeah. All right, a little bit of club news before we get to Sunday. Don't want to dissect Sunday too much, but we'll have a chat about it. Under 17s won 7-0 at Leicester. Elias Lahane with a hat-trick. Normally I do that, and it's Gary, and he has a comment to make. Anything to say? No. The women drew 2-2 at Liverpool. They can go up to Liverpool and get a result. I switched on at 2-1. I was like, we're 2-1 up. I'll have a look at this. It was on YouTube. And Liverpool had a corner. The corner came in. They headed it into the back stick and it went in.
So that's your fault.
And I was just like, I don't need this.
There's a word for that. I can't. Yeah. What is
it? Spursy?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. So that happened. The 21s didn't play. A little stat on the women and the men. Between them, they've played 54 league games this season. 16 wins, 30 defeats. Last season, the women got to a cup final. The men were doing okay. Yeah, they turned off.
Weren't the women top at the same time as the men at one point last season?
Yeah, I think possibly. They had a really easy start. And
but still.
Yeah, there's a massive divide, as we've discussed in the women's league. There's sort of 5 good teams and then the rest. But they got to the cup final last season. They're on the up. The men finished, started into 5th, but finished 5th. Something is going on. I think,
It's a sign of a good club to be consistent across all levels and platforms, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So 30 defeats from 54 between the men and women's teams, not good enough. Things that have upset everyone on social media this week, the boxing at the stadium. We talk about, is it an events business now, not football business? Yeah, that's rattled a few people. I don't like North London forever being played at the stadium, but it was nice to see that bloke get sparked out. And then the club asking the Premier League for Aston Villa fixture change. Adam, I saw your tweet on that.
I just think that they have to do it in the sense that, people are organising travel. It's 2 weeks' time, but you could just email every season ticket holder with more than 200 loyalty points and say, look, just so you know, this is a possibility. And yes, someone will screenshot the email and put it on Twitter and say, look at what Tottenham are doing. But that's a 1-0 loss versus the 5-1 loss of plastering it on Twitter that we are going to be in the final, therefore we have to change this fixture.
Yeah.
I thought it was, perhaps not the best way to deal with the situation.
Man United have already got theirs on a Friday night, though. How did they
playing
wangle
Chelsea.
that?
Yeah, it's not ideal. And I think a few stories came out last night that Villa have said, no, we're not moving it. I don't think that's anything to do with Spurs, but I think they asked for a few fixture changes this season and didn't get them.
We should just straight up refuse to play it.
Just play the kids.
Well, if it's on Sunday night, it will be the weakest Tottenham team we've probably ever seen in a Premier League game, no?
Certainly since yesterday.
No, but seriously, if we had a game fought 3 days before, like, you couldn't play anyone.
No.
Yeah. All right, a few comments before we get into Liverpool. Well, it ties in with Liverpool. The players checked out of the league months ago, things we've been saying. But I like this from Ellie. The linear black and white that only a season with a trophy equals success. It's maddening. I'm looking forward to Thursday, but I'm not as excited as I should be. Maybe it's because I'm 44 and getting long in the tooth. I don't know. Have we just had the life sucked out of us?
I don't think you can turn fandom on and off like a tap. That's what I keep coming back to, that it's all well for the players and the club to basically just sack the league off. I mean, since that Ipswich game, I don't think we've played a full team in the league. And that was February 22nd, 23rd. So you're looking at 2 months, basically, of games that have just existed. We've paid a fortune.
Well, I
to
thought
go
you
and
meant
watch.
Ipswich at home. Because if you count the injuries, we haven't.
No, you're right. But I think he probably played the best team he could have done away at Ipswich.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost like we got that gap big enough to the relegation zone and was like...
And we stayed up with that win. And it's almost like, because we had City at home a few days later in the league and they sort of beat us apologetically because we were easier to beat than lose to, I guess.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen a league game that's had anything on it since. And that's hard. And it's not like the Europa League games have been so enthralling. There was real nice tension in that Frankfurt away game that sort of made you feel again. But no, it's hard. You can't just invent fandom and turn it on when you want.
Yeah, well, you talk about team selection. Yesterday we made 8 changes, which is our most ever between 2 Premier League games.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, some teams have made 11 on last day of the season. You get a few 9s, but 8 was our most ever. We'll go through the lineup. Vicario in goal. We'll come to him shortly. Spence, Danso, Davies, Udogi, Bergvall, Gray in midfield, Maddison, Johnson, Solanke and Tell. I want to start with Archie Gray. I think it was his second start in midfield for us in all competitions. Adam, again, on social media, you said, ultimately, it's not the time to do this.
No, it's not. And, the game aside, if you want to play him away at Liverpool, fine. But at least give the guy Romero and Van der Ven behind him to play as a proper trio. To have Davis, Danso and Gray, I mean, it's just insulting to everyone, really. You've got Basuma, who you obviously don't like. If you want to throw someone to the Wolves, you might as well do that. I mean, I would have Basuma maybe in the team. He's let himself down and obviously fallen out with Ange, but I still think Basuma's got more to offer than a lot of the players. But if you want to just chuck a game, then just play him and don't ruin a kid's confidence by doing that. And then to hook him at half time because you have to, it just couldn't really have worked out much worse.
Yeah.
The treatment of Gray's been rubbish. He basically stepped in a time where we had no one else.
Yeah.
Started 20 games in a row, basically played every minute. And then since everyone's come back, he's just hardly given him a minute. 2 starts, I think, was Fulham as well, weren't it? And he took him off at half time there.
Yeah.
No, he moved him to centre half.
Oh, he moved him to centre half, yeah. It's a difficult one with Gray because, it's tough. He played all them games. And obviously when Romero and Van der Ven come back and obviously Danso gets signed, it's tricky. But I completely agree with that. Wolves was the same last week. He could have played him in midfield last week against Wolves. He could have done it against Forest. Of all times to go to Anfield as well, when they're literally about to win the league for the first time in however long, it was like, a hopeless task. And I know he did, obviously, he wasn't very good, but yeah, and the protection, the lack of protection was just nonsense.
I'll ask you both this because you've not been on that much recently, and this is your debut. Where are you on the injuries? Ange said, look, yesterday we didn't play Van der Ven or Romero because we're still managing injuries, and Bentancur's played a lot and he's had problems, so we're resting him. I get all that 4 days before a massive game. But do you feel, I have this, it's not even a theory, this belief that a lot of these injuries are down to him. It's been badly managed. Do you think it's just bad luck, or it can't just be bad luck? That we had that run between October and January, probably, where it was just injury after injury after injury.
Without any medical knowledge, I would say that last year you could pass off as an aberration if it didn't happen again the year after.
Yeah.
But to live the same experience almost back-to-back years, you have to think that if it's him or the medical staff or something is obviously not right to have that number of injuries, whether it's his fault or whoever. The thing that surprised me is how little he's appeared to play his A team in games that aren't Europa League games. I would have expected that, for a half of a league game, every now and again, he might have said, look, this is my Europa League team, just to give them some more rhythm. Because, these games are very situational in Europe. The Frankfurt game away particularly it didn't transpire like a normal football game. It was, we've got a goal, we're now going to hold. So you're not really playing in the style that you want to.
Yeah.
And it surprises me that we're going into this Bodo game and he hasn't given his, I presume, A team a minute of action together. And you'd think that they need some rhythm. So hopefully it doesn't hurt us. But I'm a little bit surprised by the way he's dealt with all of it, to be honest.
Do you think over-rotation? Or it was right to the 8 changes, had to do it?
I think it's difficult because obviously Liverpool, we were embarrassed anyway, but I would have played a stronger team against Forest on Monday night. I don't think United did it where they sort of the wrong way round, and they rested a load last week and then played a full strength team yesterday. I would have done it before. I know it was obviously post Frankfurt game, but a home game, Forest is a bit of a different game. We were always going to dominate the ball, and I would have played a stronger team against Forest and then rested everyone yesterday. I mean, if we get hammered, we get hammered. We're going to get hammered whatever team we put out yesterday. So. I didn't really,
Yeah, Mike says here, is Gray actually as good as we hype him up to be? Does the evidence justify the hype? Look, people go on social media or wherever, and we sign a new player, and I think players get overly hyped. We don't know about Archie Gray. He's obviously an extremely talented footballer, but as you said, to chuck him to the Wolves, Liverpool away, the best team in the land, was bizarre. I've said a few times this season, I would love to play this season out with a different manager. Are we 16th in the league because we've got bad players? I don't think so. I think we all know that that the manager is a big problem. One of our regulars on this show, Ollie, thinks it's a poor squad. How do you see this squad overall? We've used it in the last 10 days. Pretty much the entire squad's got a game, bar the injured players, and Bissouma is not allowed to play anymore. Is it a bad squad?
I don't think so. I think this is easily a squad that, if it's managed well enough, could be at worst competing for the top 6. I mean, we've seen enough. Every player in the squad, I would say, has had at least 10 really good games where you look at them and think that's a hell of a player.
Yeah.
They're not just flash in the pan one-offs. It's not like, Mido's debut and then you never saw the same thing again. Udogie has put runs together of being brilliant. Spence, the whole back five, you would say. Bergvall, we know there's a player in there. Kulusevski, Son, Solanke. There's enough there that should be much, much better than this.
At the start of the season, I was looking at the team going, okay, back 4, we probably need 9 centre-half. They bought Dancer, and eventually I was never a huge fan of Dragusin. I thought our midfield was somewhere where we didn't need any surgery, but it became quite clear that it does need surgery. I don't like to speculate too much, but I look at the midfield yesterday. You can't play Bergvall and Gray away to Liverpool. But if you were going to put someone alongside him, it's Sarr, not had a good season. It's Bentancur, not had a good season. It's almost the same question, Jake. Have they not had a good season because they're badly coached, or do we really need surgery in that midfield? I was someone who would have kept Højbjerg. It's been a discussion on this show quite a few times. Or a Højbjerg type. We don't have someone.
We definitely need that sort of consistent. This might be unpopular, but Conor Gallagher, not a flashy type of player. And I think we don't have that kind of player all over the pitch. And this is why I'm a massive advocate for signing a Mark Gay instead of a Romero. Because he might not be a World Cup winner and, he's going to pass it and bring it out the back and do all these, incredible tackles and all this nonsense that fans seem to love. But he'll be consistent every week. And we seem to have quite a few of those players that are a bit flaky and, not. We both like Højbjerg. I'm not saying we should have kept Højbjerg because, his time was gone and, he couldn't play in this system. But we don't have enough of those reliable players all over the pitch. I don't think at all.
As Eternal Anglo says, the system managed players exposes everyone and makes everyone look bad. It ties into my next point. You mentioned Gallagher, you mentioned Gay. We go 1-0 up through a Solanke header after 15 minutes. 12 minutes, and it felt very much like Ferdinand's goal at Old Trafford in was that 99.
I saw you put that up.
Yeah,
I did remind me of
like,
that.
what are we doing here? But we all knew that United were going to come
silence.
back. Yeah, we all knew United would come back that day, and we all knew Liverpool would come back. There was a stat that I put on our group. I think obviously Diaz equalised 4 minutes later, and before you knew it, we were 2-1 down. Where is the stat here? I've got it here. There were 12 minutes and 24 seconds between Tottenham taking the lead and Alexis McAllister putting Liverpool ahead. Today was the third time Spurs have gone 1-0 ahead, but trailed at half-time in the Premier League more than any other team. You talk about Gallagher, you talk about Gahey. Does it matter? You could have Baresi and Makaleli in this team. Does it matter if your system makes you so exposed?
No, and it's old football man speak, but you do have to earn the right to play the way you want to play. And I think we've got this utopian view that, we'll just go and play our football.
So does that bother you? Like,
it really
let's forget
bothers
this Tottenham way. Let's just go and win football matches.
No, it's not that you have to go and low block your way to victory, but you do have to win tackles, win second balls, compete for headers. You have to do the basics in order to start to dominate a game. And when we have won games with those sort of flurry of goals, they've often come because we've asserted our dominance, built some pressure, taken control of the game. But what we seem to try and do is, regardless of game state, we'll do this, that, or the other. I mean, their fourth goal yesterday, Spence has gone on the most absurd overlap around Kulusevski for a ball he's never going to get.
Yeah.
And 6 seconds later, we've got Bergvall in the right-back position, and you're 4v4. And I know people criticise Udogie for letting Salah come in on his left foot. That's a midfielder's job to be stopping that, as far as I'm concerned. Many left-backs have been done by that, because that's why he's one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And there's just no sense to it. I think even in the home game against Liverpool, from memory, we just scored to make it 2-1. Madison scored. And their third goal, they caught us out on the break in the fourth. Because, again, a fullback had been instructed to go and press a ball.
That was just before half-time.
Just before half-time. He had no right to win. And as soon as that header was lost, the goal was almost scored. You could see it 3 passes out. And that's where I found the whole thing very frustrating, that, you have to appreciate and respect the game state of these games. And that, for me, is one of the biggest reasons we've been so disappointing.
What do you make of Vicario? Firstly, as a player, I think he's a great shot stopper, but he's obviously got issues. He came out, another interview that's rattled people, and I think possibly rightly, and said, Ange is a great guy. We had James Holland on. We had Thomas Broich, who both played under Ange. He said, what a great guy he is. And they both told us what a wonderful tactician he is. I think we've seen that not to be the case. He may well be a great guy. Vicario's come out and said he's a great guy. If you buy into his theories, it's a wonderful way to play football.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's great. You turn up to training, no defensive work, no set piece work, presumably nothing working on the opposition. It must be great fun.
Yeah, and if you lose, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
It's an easy ride.
Yeah.
That's obviously a very reductive way of looking at it. But as a fan watching how these games play out, it doesn't appear that the same effort in the details is going into it that you would expect of a top team.
Yeah, well, this brings me up to another point. We had a few weeks ago a few images from Eintracht, from RZ, and from Wolves away, where you don't know whether we're attacking or defending. There's one here which for me is the best out of all of them. I'm probably going to press the wrong one. If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods, this is an image, so bear with us, but you'll find it on YouTube. I'm going to bring this up. I did this once and I ended the stream. So I'm going to press this button here and bring up this image. That is not the one, it's this one. Obviously, Liverpool. Obviously, I know each way with.
If you can't see who's got the ball, that looks like we're attacking.
Yeah, you've got two centre forwards.
It looks like that's a back three.
You've got
from them.
You've got two centre forwards.
And that's Solanke trying to run in behind.
Yeah, I mean,
if you grade out the red shirt of the guy with the ball,
correct.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You'd think that
could
Ben
be
Davies is a
anyone.
centre forward waiting for the ball.
Yeah.
That is astonishing.
But this isn't new. This is at 3-1. You could throw a blanket over Bergvall. I can't see who's next to him. Madison, and Spence is trying to get back in.
No left back anywhere.
No
in the
left
screen.
back. He's probably behind the three of us. But yeah. And there was another one from this game. This reminded me of. This is clever from Ben Davies in the attacking position.
He's holding his run really well.
Because Jan Vertonghen against Sunderland, of course,
can't be offside in your own half.
Can't be offside in your own half, even though he was given offside in his own half. You've got Spence, I think, sat down on the floor. Kulusevski trying to take on Zach McAllister. Sarr coming across. Sarr on his heels. What?
That must be Dan. That must be Danso.
Salah playing left back.
I don't know why we've got Tottenham 3AZ1 in the top left there, and that's obviously a mistake, but it could have been from that game. It's a mess.
That is exceptional.
What I don't understand is that footballers are ultimately they're robots. They do as they're told, but there has to come a point. And I think we saw it at Eintracht away. I don't think that was much to do with Ange. I think I'm not sure how much of this Europa League drive now is because of Ange. I've got to say it. I think these players want to win a trophy, and unfortunately, I'll say it. It won't be popular, or it may be now. I think we'll win if we win the Europa League, it will be in spite of Ange, and we'll have to give him credit. And I will say thank you very much for scratching that itch. On you go. No, we would have to give him some credit, but it's enough now. We could have done 5-6 more of those Eintracht, Wolves, Liverpool images, and it's got to stop. And it hasn't stopped. You have to make Liverpool win that game. We're 1-0 down, 1-0 up. Make them win it. Mm-hmm. They're going to win it. Okay, they're probably going to win it. Make them work for it.
Yeah.
The percentage of teams that don't lose when they go 1-up in Premier League games over 30 years is high, isn't it? If you go 1-0 up, regardless of who you're playing, if you go 1-0 up in a Premier League game, yesterday's a bit of an irrelevance because when we were 1-0 up, Liverpool still would have been favourites to win the game. When you go 1-0 up in a Premier League game, you should be massive favourites to not lose at least.
I think it's one of the biggest statistical drivers.
That's
if you get the first goal in a Premier League game.
If you get the first goal, and okay, I'm aware that Liverpool is different Liverpool way, but the amount of times, as that stat you said, that we don't just lose games, go 2-1 down at half time is astonishing. As soon as you score the first goal in a Premier League, you should more often than not go on to win the game. And the amount of times we don't.
But, okay, yes.
You'd fancy yourself at home to Leicester 1-0 up, wouldn't you? Probably.
Yeah. But even like I can't think of those, but like Newcastle, we're 1-up. So many games we've just thrown away.
So why is he still here? What's your theory on that? Because there's been so many games we've gone. We've gone. It'll be Saturday, Sunday. He'll be sat Monday morning.
I think there's always been a game for him to point to and say, that's my target. So you had, just give him the United quarter-final in the League Cup. Then it was the semi. Then it was, give him the Villa game in the FA Cup. Then you're through in the Europa League.
And
so we'll give him the Alkmaar game. We'll get our players back. Give him the Frankfurt game. And now it's given the Bodo game. And I think there might be a little bit of damage limitation from the top that, the owners at some point become the focal point. When you sack a manager, eventually, you're in the crosshairs as the person that's done the sacking, especially when you've done it so many times. Yeah. And again, I think he should have been more trigger happy in this instance than he has been, and that's probably cost us. But I think we've all agreed that if we'd lost to Frankfurt, he would have been sacked the next morning.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, why wouldn't you do it anyway? Would be my thinking.
Does Levy genuinely believe that Ange is the best person to win us Europa League? Or is he worried about the reaction from, I don't know whether Spurs fans or the media generally, sacking someone ahead of another massive game?
Would you sack him and bring in Rafa Benitez for 3 Europa League games, for example?
Not now.
I don't like. I wouldn't sack him now, just because
I think after Alkmaar was the time where if you were going to make the change, you could have done it because you had
Premier League games
and an international break for a couple of weeks.
Sacking him now would just be no.
Look, listen, we're in the Europa League semi-final. Great. Spurs don't get to too many European semi-finals, and it is not a vintage Europa League, and it won't be going forward because of the Champions League dropouts. And it's the second, and this is what the Europa League should be. It should be the second-rate competition. I don't like the drop-downs. You've got the 16th, 15th, and 16th best teams in the Premier League. At one point on Saturday afternoon, we were 17th. And if you break down the Europa League, we beat Karabag, we beat Ferencváros. We stuttered past RZ, lost at Galatasaray, drew with Roma, drew at Rangers, blah, 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 blah. Needed the kids to beat Elfsborg. Do you believe that he hasn't surrounded himself, this is Levy, hasn't surrounded himself with good enough football people? Because actually, if you break down the Europa League, they haven't really achieved much to get here. Do you think a stronger set of footballing intelligence, potentially, in the boardroom would have seen this for what it is, and he may have gone a long time ago?
I think it's partly that, but also not having as much criticism around them already. And I think they have been very happy to try and have the limelight thrusted on someone else for negativity. And, again, if they'd bought the club 3 years ago and he was their second appointment perhaps, then there's not enough, battle scars and that people remember, you've done that. Everyone's got their threads of what Levy's done, sacked the manager at half time and then, sat Pochettino when we were fourth. And I just don't think they wanted to sort of add to the thread almost, not really.
Do you think the pressure being on Levy, which it was certainly since the turn of the year, and he's sitting there going, well, if I sack him, they're going to hate me even more. Do you think he thought we wanted this guy to stay?
I don't even know what he thinks.
Well, we don't know. It's all conjecture.
What is he thinking on this Monday morning after a 19th
I do think
defeat?
they
what
are
is
desperate.
he thinking?
They are and were desperate for Ange to be a success.
I think
Yeah,
so.
they were.
More than almost anyone else they've hired. Because I
Yeah.
think this would have been a real...
More than Conte and Mourinho,
Yeah.
for sure.
And they have backed him moderately well. And I think it would have been, if they could have made this guy work, then it would have been a justification for a lot of the decisions they've made in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Some stats from yesterday. Obviously, I told
good.
you. Huh? No, not good. I said before, someone said about 8 weeks ago now, what are you going to talk about when we keep losing? Well, there's always something. Spurs are the gift that keeps on giving. There will always be records broken. 19th defeat of the season, joint most defeats in a Premier League campaign for us, along with 93-94, but that was a 42-game season. And 03-04, we've not lost 20 in a season since 91-92, and that was a 42-game season. The last time we lost 20 in a 38-game season was a relegation season of 76-77. Thankfully, not even I remember that. I asked my dad yesterday which team was worse, 76-77 or this, and he said at least 76-77 had some fight.
What was the reaction on Twitter in 76, 77?
Yeah, we weren't in any other cups that they could cling on to. So it was a Terry Neal took us down, ex-Arsenal. I'm sure it wouldn't have gone down too well. He said they had fight. He said they were a poor team, but they had fight. This is a better football team, but it has no fight.
Presumably there was also some jeopardy. Like, it's so weird that we've had so many losses and have never really even had to win a couple of games. Brentford away, you felt we'd lost that, maybe it's getting dicey, but we've still got players to come back. It's amazing to have lost so many games and have zero jeopardy on the season.
Thankfully, Ipswich and Leicester and Southampton have been so poor. Joint heaviest league defeat under Ange Postecoglou guarantees we finish in the bottom half for the first time since 07-08, when we finished 11th, but that was...
When else did we lose?
That was
5-1
Ramos, but at least we
under
won a
Ange?
cup. Pardon?
When else did we lose 5-1?
Well, it would have been losing 4.
Oh, I'm not having that as joint heaviest.
Wow, that's a stats argument to have.
No.
Do you believe that matches that go to penalties should be draws, count as draws?
No.
No? Well, you can't.
I was actually thinking...
You shadowed me once in the stats department. You've got to get with it.
I was actually thinking the last time we conceded 5 away from home, which was that Newcastle horror show. But before that, I don't think we've conceded 5 away from home for about 12 years.
Yeah, I can't think of too many occasions.
In fact, you know when it was?
Go on.
It was Arsenal away in 2012.
5-2.
We were 2-0 up, yeah.
We lost
And the year after that as well.
Yeah,
yes,
both
twice.
Of them, so 2013.
we lost 4-0 at Newcastle on the 13th of April 2024. So joint heaviest defeat in terms of margin of defeat, even though you're not having it. You can come to my stats TED Talk. I don't do one. Liverpool, here's a stat for Liverpool fans, if there are any. Liverpool have scored 15 goals in all competitions against Tottenham Hotspur this season. Their joint most ever in a single campaign. They once scored 15 against Rotherham Town.
Do you know what's incredible about that stat?
Go on.
We kept a clean sheet against them this season. No one mentioned that yesterday. We did.
Great stat. Great stat. They scored 15 against Rotherham Town in 1895-96. Rotherham Town don't exist anymore. They merged into Rotherham United at some point. We're going to come on to Bodo very shortly. We've got a guest, Johannesburg. I'm not doing him a service here because I've forgotten his full name. Johannesburg Johnson will join us, a Norwegian sports reporter. Before we talk to him about Bodo and ourselves talk about Bodo, our poll and a few people on Twitter have asked, does he deserve Thursday night? We've kind of flirted around it. He shouldn't be sacked. But I'll ask it again. Does he deserve Thursday night?
As an overall package, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's too late in the day to do anything about it now, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. As Will says, and Martin's, look, we're going to lose 23 league games. There is no chance he'll be here next year, is there?
No.
I'd love to agree with you, but I've got a horrible feeling if we win it, which I don't think we will, that we're going to do a Ten Hag and United and keep him.
Really?
He's going to go with that sympathy vote because it's not the last game of the season. But if we'd won the League Cup, there'd be no chance because there'd still be time for a bad vibe around the club. But I just think, I know what it will be. Like, it'll be, he's won a trophy, he's got us into the Champions League, everyone's back, this was a one-off. And, I can imagine Levy coming out and doing one of those silly post-season interviews and saying all of these things are going, we'll never have a season like this with injuries. You know, everything was against us. But look what he delivered, and he said he would, and we're going to keep him on.
It's an incredible situation. You talked about Spursy. I don't know what the word would be for this. Winning a trophy isn't Spursy. It's a remarkable situation because you will have people who will say, and a lot from outside, and I think right now we're seeing that Spurs fans, we've had a few on our comments after pods, who support him. And I think a lot of people who support him, rightly, I'll say this, are Australian. They're very proud of what Ange's done.
As they should be.
Absolutely as they should be. The first Australian to manager in the Premier League, great. But
the last.
And the last. He's out of his depth. Whether another Australian will come in and won't be, who knows. But there will be people, and probably Spurs fans too, who say, you know what? You've got to stay. I don't think any of us agree with that.
No, there's two parts to it. If it had been a Europa League, which had 12 Champions League dropouts like in the past, and you'd have to have beaten some proper teams.
Yeah.
But I think all of us, before the season started, looked at the teams in the Europa League and thought, hang on,
we've got a chance.
Got a really good chance here. Yeah. And secondly, I think you mentioned the Ten Hag thing, that there has been an example so recently for what not to do. To follow the same path, I think would be borderline negligence.
Yeah. Well, you say we got a chance. We are in the last four, and we've got a guest to talk to us about our semi-final opponents. Johannes, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. So we've been dissecting another defeat, but let's look ahead to Thursday. I think we're in a good mood about it, but it's difficult to get there. But we will get there. Excuse my pronunciation, Bodo, or someone said it might be Bodo. I'm not sure. I'm sure you'll tell us. It's a remarkable story. They flirted with being a good team in Europe for a few years. They beat Roma 6-1 under Mourinho, but then they lost to Roma. They've beaten Lazio this year. Just tell us a little bit about the Bodo journey in the last few years.
It's quite remarkable, actually. It's one of the smaller clubs in the top division of Norway. And in 2016, they were also in the second division after being relegated, almost being bankrupt. And then they picked up this guy from Bergen, Kjetil Knutsen, came along. And he became the head coach after started off as part of the coaching staff. And the journey since has just been remarkable because he didn't have a long CV with a lot of clubs either. He had been sacked from a smaller club in the Bergen area near Brann, which is one of the bigger teams. And what's happened since is just fascinating. I think it's really difficult for anyone to really kind of explain the culture they have been building and the success they have been able to create out of almost none resources. And as years has gone by and they have been in Europe constantly and they have been champions 4 of the last 5 seasons, money has been flowing in and they have been really good at spending money and buying good players in the Norwegian standards of quite a lot of money, which means like 1, 2, 3 million pounds, and then selling them on for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. So their finance situation has also been really devolving as this journey has just been bigger and bigger, and it's remarkable. And from a Norwegian perspective, it's just fascinating to watch.
We've had a few Norwegian teams in the past. Rosenborg, sort of in the 90s, early 2000s, were quite strong in Europe. Molde had a good side. Are Bodo themselves surprised at how far they've got, or as they've been building, they're actually like, this is where we can be?
I think everyone is very surprised, and the big debate now is whether the Rosenborg success in the 90s, being in the Champions League 13 years in a row and coming to the quarterfinals once after beating Milan, if that is the biggest achievement in Norwegian club football history, or if Bodo Glimt is even better. And obviously there's a difference between football now and then and the Champions League and the Europa League, but there's certainly arguments for both sides. To become this good, I don't think anyone has really thought would be possible. In the Conference League, when they beat Rome 6-1 at home, Jose Mourinho came up with a team that were not prepared, and they had a lot of people in from the reserves, and they didn't really look up for it at all. But the interesting thing is that coming to Bodø and Aspmyra Stadium, especially during the late autumn and winter months where it's really cold and the atmosphere around the whole place is really often windy, rainy, sometimes snowy, The pitch is artificial, obviously, and they're really, really good at playing a fast style at their artificial ground. After all these years, so many teams has been coming there and having trouble, but it seems like opposition managers and coaches and players are not really prepared well enough when they come there.
So you get the
even
joke. You get the
players
joke in England
from
here. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
You get the joke here in England. Can you go to Stoke on a Tuesday night? Can you go to Bodo on a Thursday night?
Yes, pretty much the same, I guess. I would even argue it might be even harder to go to Bodo on a Thursday night than Stoke.
Oh, you've not been to Stoke. What about the team on the pitch? I know they've got 3 suspended, including the captain, Patrick Berg, and there's talk that a couple of defenders will be injured. They lost one yesterday. Blomberg's injured. How big a miss will they be? Certainly, Patrick Berg in midfield.
Massively, and they are really worried about that, especially for the first match, because I think they were thinking maybe a 2-0, 3-1 kind of defeat would be okay to go to Bodo with, but now they're worried that it might be even worse, because Patrick Berg is so instrumental to everything they do, and they don't really have any proper backups. A few years back, they had a young talent that was really good that could play there, but Patrick Berg is just ever present in the team, so it's really hard to get in there and hard to get any practice of playing that very vital role for that team. So that's the biggest loss, and then we have Håkon Evjen as well, which means that 2 out of the 3 midfielders are out. And after that big mistake they made, I can't really understand how that's possible, because they thought that they were allowed to have yellow cards in Rome for the Lazio game.
They got it wrong.
It will be,
They didn't understand the rules. Is that what you're saying?
That's true.
Wow.
So they were told by my colleague Gunhild, which she was doing interviews post-match in Stadio Olimpico, and she told one of the players, how will it be going to Tottenham without Patrick and Håkon being suspended? And he was, no, it's not like that. After the quarterfinals, UEFA rule says that they, just all the yellow cards disappear, but the suspension doesn't disappear.
Correct.
That was the mistake that somebody in the administration in Bodo made, and it's, you can't get your head around that, because in such a big club with a lot of people, involved in all parts of sports and administration, somebody should say, hey, this doesn't look right, does it? Because if you just read the UEFA.com preview on the match, you could see 5 players from Lazio and 4 players from Bodo being in danger of missing the semi-final if they get the yellow card. So it's just incredible. And I think the atmosphere in the dressing room just kind of changed after the news from Viaplay that you're going to miss a couple of your absolute key players in the first leg. So I'm really interested to see how they will cope and who will play, because it's they haven't even played these first round Norwegian Cup matches without Patrick. He's playing all the time. He played last time when they played the local team Junkeren and won 5-1. They had 16-year-old on top who scored a hat-trick, but they still had Patrick Berg in that central midfield position. So he's the heartbeat of that team. So we are really curious about how they're going to solve that, and if they're going to change the approach in any way, if they're going to surprise us going 5 at the back or doing just something different. But that would also be very uncharacteristic of a team of Kjetil Knutsen, because he's so dedicated to the 4-3-3 and their playing style. So it's going to be a big one.
You talk about style. Nothing strikes fear into the English fan like the words plastic pitch. And I just wondered, obviously you said that Bodo have this fantastic style when they play on the artificial surface. Is there reverse true in the sense that does their style suffer at all when they're playing on grass, or does the same not translate that way?
In the Norwegian League, they have, I think of the 16 teams, I think there's 11 with plastic fields now, and Bodø Glimt, when they play away, they have to a certain degree poorer results than when they play on artificial grass. But that also might have to be with that the teams on grass are like Rosenborg and usually quite good teams. It's difficult places to go. And when they play abroad, obviously they play on proper grass, and the results away and home is you can just see the results. It's a big difference, and especially in the key matches, it's been kind of hinder to them, or the kind of to take to the next level to be able to produce great results and qualify in the knockout rounds when they play the last match away, or they play one match at the grass where they sometimes they lose by 2 or 3 goals, which is difficult to catch up. So playing on grass is very different for them. Obviously, this when you play on artificial, the ball moves differently. It moves faster. It's very difficult to have the high press when you play on artificial grass. And I think a lot of teams come to Bodo and they're not able to do their regular kind of high pressure football because Bodo Glimt will play around them. So what most teams do in Norway, they go really low on a low block when they come and meet Bodo Glimt. But when you have Lazio and Roma and Celtic and PSV and Arsenal and these teams, they don't do that, obviously. And it will be interesting to see what Ange Postecoglou would like to do. Obviously, depending on the result of the first match then.
On paper, this is obviously a bit of a sort of David and Goliath, but is people in Bodo and Norway aware of how bad of a season Tottenham are having and how sort of winnable of a tie this is?
Yeah, absolutely. And they, when they went to Manchester and lost 3-2 at Old Trafford in October, I think it was November, that's one of the worst performances of the season for Bodo Glimt. They're really kind of frustrated by that they didn't put out a better performance in one of the obviously biggest party and away trips games they have on all this, all these years of going into Europe, because Bodo Glimt and everybody in Norway knows the Premier League very, very well. Obviously, Man United, Liverpool, very well supported, and Tottenham as well. And when you see the results this season, it's crazy, isn't it? It's hard to really believe that. Is it 19 defeats now?
Yeah, 19 defeats. Yeah, it's our most in a Premier League season. When we had Jan Åge Fjørtoft on last week, he said to me, Norwegian fans would want a Bodo v Spurs semi-final. It's the romantic semi-final for them. The Spurs still I know you said Liverpool, Man United, Man City. Spurs are a big deal. You've been able to help me out getting Eric Thortsfeld on. He's going to come on and chat to us this week. Is Spurs still a big deal in Norway?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a big gap from Man United and Liverpool at the top, and then after that it's Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, and also a lot of tradition of supporting the clubs from 60s and 70s, all these Midland clubs that were on TV in Norway already, early 70s and stuff like that. And Tottenham obviously have a huge appeal. I have a lot of friends that are Tottenham fans, and at the moment they're I don't know how to describe their emotions, but it seems because they are not that angry. It's just I don't think there's not that much emotions left after all these months.
Totally deflated. I think that's the word.
Yeah, deflated is the word. Yeah, but and Bodo Glimt know this, and I think Kjetil Knutsen and his team know that if they have put out their best performance in these 2 games, they will beat Tottenham. But there's a big obstacle with all these missing players and also these injuries that is taking place. So when a weekend Bodo Glimt is coming on Thursday, it's I think Tottenham are going to be quite heavy favorites, and I would say it will be disappointing for Spurs if they not score at least 3 goals.
I want to ask you that. Obviously, Ange has played Bodo before. I think that was his first 2 games as Celtic manager, and Bodo came through it. What are your predictions, not just for Thursday, but for the tie, and how important will that first leg be?
I think for Tottenham, it's going to be extremely important to have a good result. And I think at least 2 goals deficit. For you guys, I would say 3 would be good. Because Bodo Glimt is going to score a couple of goals at least in Bodo in the return. So, but they're not, their offense is the best part of their team. So Tottenham can go to Bodo Glimt and score a goal or 2 as well. So it's going to be very open, I think, and depending on how much Tottenham will win it, because I'm pretty sure Tottenham will win on Thursday. It's just a matter of how big will that victory be, because that is the difference of Bodo Glimt home and away, and also with 3-4 key players out, it's going to be a new experience, and obviously these are young and experienced players, most of these, but they have been building European kind of a legacy now, and also get some routine, so they are used to these big scenes. But at the same time, when you watch them play at the biggest venues around Europe, actually Celtic away versus Ange Celtic back in 21-22 is one of the first away victories they had, which was also a big thing, that they were able to actually win matches on away grounds. But I would say maybe 3-1 or 4-1 Tottenham on Thursday.
Wow,
And then
we don't
let's
have
see
we don't
what
have
will
many guests.
happen in Bodo.
We don't have many guests predicting Spurs wins. But listen, we should do it. And I'm fascinated by this. Norwegian football's having a bit of a resurgence at the moment. And it's great to see. Look, you've not been at a World Cup, I think, since '94. And it's good to see the national team improving. But obviously, we need to see the back of Bodo and hopefully get to Bilbao. Jonas, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to get your thoughts. And will you be at the game or will you be watching from home?
I'm actually going to a wedding in Crete this week, so but I'll go to the return match next week to cover it on pitch. So I'm looking very much forward to it. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a match that is still alive when we come to Bodo next week.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonas, and great to talk to you.
Cheers.
My pleasure.
Thanks. You. Cheers. Interesting that. Look, we've got to respect them. We should be beating them. If you're going to get to a Europa League semi-final, you'll be delighted to play a Norwegian team. But they beat Roma 6-1. They went to Man United, only lost 3-2. I was just looking at their away results, as Jonas says. This will be where the ties won, I think. They did lose at United. They obviously lost at Lazio. My internet's gone down.
How did they do in the groups, like, apart from...
Yeah, away from home?
Yeah.
They lost at Olympiacos in the knockout. They lost at Twente. They lost at Nice. They won at Braga. I mean, no one's really taken them apart.
It feels like there's similar sort of vibes to like playing like a Greek or Turkish team, where you know they're going to toss it in the away game, but then if they're still... I know it's not going to be the same sort of atmosphere, but the same sort of vibe. Like Galatasaray away is an absolute horror, but if you play them at home, you could beat them by a few. And that feels like the same sort of vibe. We could beat them by quite a few, but we need to go there with at least a 2-goal lead, probably 3.
Yeah, and if it doesn't start well, the atmosphere is going to get, well, it's never going to be toxic, you wouldn't think, for a European semi-final. But if it starts to get edgy and we don't have a lead within inside 20, 25 minutes, you can see it to start get frustrating. Yeah.
I'm being told Johannes is staying on to watch the show, which is absolutely fine. More than happy for Johannes to watch us, which is great.
All that stuff you were about to say, you were going to slag them off.
I was just about to slag
you
them
mustn't do that now, because that would be so disrespectful.
Look, I said it to Johannes, Norwegian football's having a resurgence. I'm working on all the UEFA stuff, and they've got some great players. Haaland, Odegaard from up the road. Have to respect him. Antonio Nusa. I don't know how many of the Bodo players are in the Norwegian team, but you have to respect them. And it would be Spursy. Oh my God, if we go out to this team, that would be one of the worst results in our history.
Yeah.
But listen, we've been to Tamworth on the plastic pitch, and we basically could have lost to a team
Kept a clean sheet.
that kept a clean sheet for 90 minutes.
If we keep a clean sheet away at Bodo,
They had a bloke who worked at Zara.
Does Kinski need to play in Bodo because he's used to keeping goal on the plastic pitch? You never know. These little marginal gains. I don't actually mean that, but
how many do we need to win by on Thursday night for you to be comfortable?
If you're asking me in a dream scenario, I'd rest very easily with a 5-goal lead. 4, I'd be thrilled with. 3,
you'd be a little bit
because you just know, 1 before 65. If you only got a 3-goal lead,
Burnley away vibes when we with that semi-final.
Yeah, so Kinski's not registered.
I wasn't being entirely serious, but
we need to win by at least 2. Worst case scenario. I think anything less than 2 is par.
You wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't be skipping out the ground, leaving with a 2-goal lead.
3. We need to win by 3 goals. Anything else, and we could be in trouble out there.
Yeah.
When he was saying wind, rain, cold, I was sort of rattling my brain for it.
The Lazio first leg, they
battered them.
Well, not only did they batter them, I was working on Rangers, and we had up on one of the screens was scenes from Bodo, and it was. I mean, the snow was.
Yeah, I know.
And you're like, that game's off. And within 45 minutes, the snowplow comes out. And the pitch is ready. I don't think we're going to have that snow. It's going to be mid-May or second week of May. It's going to be cold, whatever. But it will be a leveler, and I just think I think going back to, are we going to win this Europa League in spite of Ange? The players want to win a European, not the European Cup, they want to win a European Cup. And I think that's what will probably get us through, and the fact that the Bodo are a decent side but not a great side. And I just think, so obvious, we'll never have a better chance of getting to a final. Playing Man United scares me because we've beaten them 3 times this season. Spursy comes back into it. Playing Bilbao, in inverted commas, at home, not easy. I'm not going to do that thing where I said, talk about the final like we've got to get that Villa game moved, but we're never going to have a better chance.
No. But equally, I think Carragher said something similar on one of his podcasts, that you just can't really envisage a Spurs team beating either of those finalists in that situation. That's what is really nagging at me. That it's going to be
a nightmare scenario.
Either
You've
or
either
is a
got Man
nightmare.
United, who are over the years will turn up in cup finals and big games, or
Or
a
the
team
hosts.
playing at home.
Scary, isn't it? Are you going?
It should be.
Are you booked for Bilbao? I have to say, before you answer that, a guy at work said to me on Friday or Saturday that not only, forget Bilbao, he's booked Udine for the Super Cup final.
North London derby. It's going to be.
North-
It could be someone's first game, the new manager's first game.
Yeah, a
Arsenal
gentleman
in
called
a
Brian
final.
Leonard and his brother Billy. They're obviously joking, but they've booked up Udine already. They're that sure.
Well, look, I don't want to give the Bodo players more bulletin board material, because obviously they're watching this just to get the scope on Spurs. But I have got accommodation booked for Bilbao,
Yeah.
and it
Flights?
might be a bit planes, trains, and automobiles to get there and back.
Yeah,
Same. I booked it.
But that the accommodation is booked. But I don't want to give any.
When did you book it?
My friend actually booked it in August.
Wow.
Wow.
So that must be cheap as chips.
I think there might be some dynamic pricing going on, it seems, but it's not too bad.
I've got an Airbnb booked, but
I'm not going.
I don't think I'm going to go. Yeah, I don't think I am.
You'll get sucked into it.
No, I'm so deflated by it. I said to you, I think last week, I got a lot of work on around that time. I want to watch it with my son, who won't get a ticket. And if we win, I'll be so pleased that we've won it. I'll go to the
I think
parade
the
or
nice thing
whatever.
about this compared to possibly any other final is for people that don't go to the final, the Brighton game will be special. The
Yeah.
game's completely irrelevant. No one gives a toss about the game, but that is like a not many. That's like a open top bus parade in the ground.
'Cause
Not many teams
normally
can
the
get to
season's
do
done.
that. Yeah,
It'll be like that Everton game after the Ajax
yeah, exactly.
Wednesday night,
Yeah.
when
But,
no one
yeah.
cared about the game,
Yeah.
and it was just a party in the ground for 2 hours of half the full time.
Yeah. I think it comes down to what we said earlier. I'm kind of winning it for me and
Mhm.
us. Like, if we win, I'm sure these players are good guys, whatever. I have very little warmth towards them at the moment. I think they're the team I've disliked the most for a very, very long time. We've had some rubbish teams. So that's another reason why I just want to be with my son, my family, my dad, who's not going to go. We deserve this.
It does feel like a massive win. I know all cups do, not that we've won a lot, but it feels like a massive. Almost feels like we should win and we should just all leave the ground and let them
Yeah, because you saw
celebrate
that-
on their own, and
you
we
saw-
should be together
correct,
as, as
yeah.
a fan
Correct,
base.
because you saw the Liverpool players all celebrating with the fans. They love
You're
those
Van Dijk
players.
singing, "You'll never walk alone."
They love those players, and I just don't know if those players come over if we win the league, that I'll feel this warmth to them, and that's bad. I'm probably not alone in that.
It would just naturally happen because you'd all be on top of the world. But I know what you mean. You could almost. And would Ange come over? Like, he's been very hesitant.
Yeah.
That's the
to go
point.
over to away ends.
That's the point.
Would,
I
would a
don't-
few be singing "You're getting sacked in the morning" after winning the Europa League?
Do you remember the picture that Pochettino orchestrated before the Champions League final of the entire club staff? That felt like a culmination of something that the club with the fans had achieved on a journey together. This couldn't feel more different to
it's
that.
True.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't feel any connection at the moment. I didn't know whether it was because I'm just getting old, but I think I think a lot of people are feeling the same. There's no connection at the moment, and I don't feel it would come back even if we won it. Madison came out last night and he said, "I don't understand all this outside noise." We've had people saying we're on our comments, "You fans are the problem." Sorry, us fans, we pay our money. We're emotionally invested. Even if you don't go to the games, you're emotionally invested. One thing that is not a problem is us.
I think what would be special is, as much as he's sort of gone off the ball for a while, but the Son's moment, if that was to happen.
Well, would you think he comes back in, by the way, on Thursday night? If he's
No, he
fit?
absolutely shouldn't.
Should he come back in?
He shouldn't start a Europa League game for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
I think he'd have their right back on toast based on what I've seen against Elfsborg. Their right back's probably not that great. I don't know.
I'm not sure he's going to play again this season.
Yeah, maybe.
I've
Yeah,
got
it
this
does
just,
feel like
when
one
you
of
just
them.
read,
Has
when
he
you.
played his last game for Spurs?
I hope not.
No, I really hope.
I really hope not. But I do just, when you start sort of reading between the lines with some of the way that Ange speaks about injuries,
before, haven't we?
something doesn't seem quite right.
He said yesterday, he's like, we'll be back next week. Maybe he'll be on the bench, but I don't disagree. Son is injured, back second now.
Oh, he'll be great on a AstroTurf
Can you
pitch
imagine?
away in Norway. Adam, you've had some fan mail. Adam is a legend, absolute monster.
Oh, thanks, Mum. Cheers. Good to know you're watching.
Your mum's username is Commandop.
Look, it's not for
She
me
play
to...
Call of Duty.
Yeah, she does, in her spare time. And good luck to her.
Right, Ad, best debut since the 14th of April 2010. Danny Rose against Arsenal.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get your prediction, though, for Thursday night.
4-1
To Bodo.
to Tottenham. Yeah. 4-1 to Tottenham.
3-1.
Okay, I'm gonna go 3-0.
Obviously, all with the caveats that it's still Tottenham.
Yeah.
So, I expect a 0-1 as much as I expect a 4-1.
No,
But if I had to choose one, I'd go with that.
I think we'll beat them.
I think I was actually always quite interested in odds of games, and I think maybe Ipswich aside, Bodo are the widest odds of a team we've played this season.
And they should be.
And considering how bad
They're
we are
from
now,
Norway.
I think
I
they're
keep
like
saying with respect.
12-1 to win, which is wide odds against this Tottenham team.
I mean, God, if we don't win that game.
3-2 Tottenham, 2-5-2.
It would be one of the worst results an English club's ever had if we don't get through. I don't think it's that unfair to say that. Their highest ever transfer is £4.8 million, I think.
That's quite high.
This is probably the equivalent
No, it
of
can't
like
be.
Like, I'm not even trying to disrespect Bodo, but in terms of
That seems high.
how football is and the infrastructure and what Spurs have got. I mean, football's brilliant because Bodo might win. That's why we all love it. But, cold heads, this shouldn't be a contest.
We've got, there's all this, why, and they're going to do a TIFO and flags and all that. We should just go at them from minute one. Absolutely go at them.
I think we will. I think we will really, really start on the front foot.
With 1-5.
Yeah, with 5-1 on.
Liverpool were 1-5 yesterday, to put that into context.
And they won 5-1.
Exactly.
Listen, the world is against us. Everybody wants to see Tottenham lose. And I'd be the same. What a story Bodo is.
Yeah.
Let's not be that team. Let's not be that team. All right, gentlemen, Adam, I'm hoping this is not the last time we see you.
Likewise.
We'll see you for the live one in Bilbao that Johnny claims he's not doing.
I'll host it if necessary. I'll just fill in.
Fine.
Give me the running order and
I'll
we'll
do
go
it
for
like-
it.
You're more than welcome. Yeah, you're probably right. Once we get there, I'll probably change my mind.
You've gone from watching it with your son to doing a live podcast in Bilbao now.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We will be back on Friday morning after the 5-1 home win against Bodo. We will be back. We'll see you then. Thank you for all your comments. Jake, thank you so much. And we will see you on Friday. And up the Spurs.